hashing, then we have digital signatures, and then we have digital certificates. Fine. So these are all different discrimination that you can do on the basis of cryptography. Fine. So if I start with encryption and I start with something like is it making any sense?
No.
No. Now, what if I make it something like this? Is it making any sense now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So what happens whenever we talk about encryption, we always have few things. First one is this here is known as your ciphertext, right? And this one here is known as your plain text. Fine. After this minus sign that you see, this here is your algorithm, and the 2 here is your key, right? So basically whenever you talk about encryption, it is a combination of algorithm and key, right? So whenever you hear the word key, it's always going to be encryption, right? So that would be one liner for defining encryption, right? Now next thing, when it comes to algorithm and key, algorithm is something which is always public. Can you guys tell me any of the encryption algorithm?
Uh, this,
Any of them, whatever comes to your mind.
there are many handshake like uh,
Have you heard of AES,
yes, yes,
DES,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
triple DES, RSA?
RS,
Help me,
RSA,
Yes.
right, RSA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
right? Heard of these algorithm? What are these algorithm for?
Encryption.
Uh,
Absolutely. These are all encryption algorithm. Now, are these algorithms public? Are they known to everyone?
yeah.
Right? Now, can anyone tell me key for any of these algorithm? What is the key for any of these algorithm?
Okay.
So key for any encryption algorithm is something which is always private,
Yes.
right? And is known to no one.
Yeah.
Fine. So that's why when I said algorithm is public, that means it is known to everyone. And similarly, I can say now that key is something which is always private and known to no one.
Yeah.
Right? Further, I can divide encryption in two major types, right? First one would be, have you heard of symmetric encryption?
Yeah.
So first one is a symmetric encryption and second one is
Asymmetric.
asymmetric encryption. right? So these are two major types of encryptions.
Yes.
Fine. Symmetric and asymmetric. Now, if I talk about symmetric, can you give me some symmetric encryption algorithms?
No.
AES.
Heard of these?
Yeah, the first three.
Perfect. So these are all symmetric encryption algorithms, right? Now, if I talk about asymmetric, can you give me any asymmetric encryption algorithm?
RSA.
These are all asymmetric encryption algorithms, right? Now, let's start with talking about symmetric. What happens? Let's say you have two systems. One will have a public key. Let's say this is A, so it will be public key of A, and this here is public key of B, right? What happens before any communication? They will send their keys across, right? And now whenever A will send any data to B, A will encrypt it using public key of
B.
B, right? And when this data goes to B, B will decrypt it using his own
Um,
public
K.
key, right? Now, if it is vice versa, B is sending data to A, B will use A's public key to encrypt and A will use his own public key to decrypt the data, right? This was to maintain confidentiality of your data, isn't it? Now,
Yeah.
think of what if there is a hacker sitting in the network, right? And if he is sniffing, will he be able to grab both these public keys for A and public keys for B?
Yes.
Will he be able? Are these keys traveling in the network?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
So should he be able to grab these keys?
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Right.
So he can easily grab these keys. Is this data again traveling over network?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can he
Right.
grab the data as well?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Can he decrypt the data because he have both the keys,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
right? And he can do anything that he wants to do with the data, which made us to switch to another encryption, which was asymmetric encryption. Fine?
Yeah.
Great. Now, when it comes to asymmetric encryption, what we do, okay, there are a couple of things that you should know for symmetric encryption, that it's fast, right? Symmetric encryption is fast because we are just using one single key. Fine?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now, we switch to asymmetric encryption, and the thing is asymmetric encryption is practically impossible, right? Why? Because it is very slow.
Mm.
Okay. Now, what happens in asymmetric? Let's say again we have two systems, A and B. Now A will have two keys, which will be public key of A and private key of A. Similarly, we will have public key of B and we will have private key of B, right? Now, before any communication, they will again exchange their public keys,
Yes.
right? Great. Now, when they exchange their public keys, what will happen? Now, if they want to send any data, what they will do, they will also add a hash of that data, right? Now, they will encrypt the hash with private key of A, fine? So, hash is encrypted with the private key of A, and further, this whole packet is now encrypted with public key of
Can,
public key of B, right? Now when this data is sent across and B receives this data, what B will see? B will have a encrypted data which is being, again encrypted by public key of B itself. So can B decrypt this data now?
yes.
Yeah.
Can B? Perfect. So B can easily decrypt the data and B can easily get the data as well as the encrypted hash, right? So once B have decrypted it using his own public key, B will now have the data and the hash. Now, can B calculate hash for this data? Can B do that?
Yes.
Right? So B can always calculate hash for this data. Now there is one more hash which is encrypted with the private key of A, right? So anything which is encrypted with a private key can always be decrypted by a public key, right? So you can now
Okay.
decrypt this encrypted hash with the help of public key of B, right? Now once this hash is decrypted, now can you at the end of the day compare these two hashes,
Yes.
right? If these hashes are same, you can always say that the data that you got have not been tampered with during the transit. Fine, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah.
Great. Now, this encrypted hash with the private key of A, right? This encrypted hash with the private key of A here,
Okay.
this is what is known as a digital signature, right? Let me give you an analogy for it. Can you see this image, right?
Yes.
This was
Yeah.
your hash value, right? You encrypted the hash value with the private key of sender, right?
Private.
Let's say sender is A and receiver is B,
B.
right? So you encrypted the hash with the private key of
A.
A, right? Now the
Okay.
output which you get, right, that is your encrypted hash. This is what you call as a signed message, right? Now how B will verify the integrity, right? B will grab that signed message and he will use my
Public key.
public key to decrypt it and he will get a hash value. Fine. So
Yeah.
this signed message over here, this is what is known as a digital signature.
Okay.
Fine. Now, since private key is something which is never sent over the network, that's what makes every digital signature very unique, right? Because no two users can have the same hash, right? No two users
Okay.
can, sorry, no two users cannot always have the same private key, right? Which can
Yes.
easily be used in order to maintain non-repudiation. Remember non-repudiation,
Yes.
right? In which the sender cannot deny that he have not sent this message. Fine?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is what can be done with the help of digital signatures. So
So it
digital
will come under
signature is clear?
asymmetric encryption. Yeah.
What? Digital
Yes.
signatures? Yeah, digital signatures are calculated because we go with asymmetric encryption. But again, as I said, asymmetric encryption is something which is, very hard to obey because it is very slow and we don't use asymmetric encryption anywhere, right? But still, you guys see digital signatures? And I'm saying we don't use asymmetric encryption, but still, Gmail and WhatsApp, they all go with creating all these digital signatures, isn't it? So what
Yes.
does that mean? That means there was a guy with the name Diffie-Hellman, right? This guy came in and he said, rather than sending data, this thing, right? Rather than sending data using asymmetric encryption, fine? Rather than
Okay.
sending data through asymmetric encryption, why don't we do a key exchange? Why don't we do a key exchange using asymmetric? So if we can actually secure a key exchange, then all the further communication can easily be done with the help of symmetric.
Symmetric, yeah.
Okay.
Bingo. So what this guy did, let me see, it's a very big and complicated mathematical formula, right? And I won't be going through all of it. So let me give you an image analogy for it. Okay. Now, if you look at this, so fine, any volunteer. Okay, Divya, right? So let's
Yes.
say Divya and me, we are agreeing on a single common key, right? So Divya, if you can look at your
Okay.
chat, I have sent you the common key. Can you see the common key?
Yes. Yes.
Right? So this is a common key that we have agreed on, right? Now I want you to think of a number which is your private key and don't tell it to anyone again. Why? Because it is your private key, isn't it?
Private. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Similarly, I will do the same. Now I want you
Okay.
to add those two numbers and tell me what you got.
The private number which you sent and the one which I thought. Those two I should
Yeah,
add.
add both of them. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, should I text or shall I tell it?
Yeah, tell it.
It is 16.
So mine is 15 and Divya's is 16, right? Now, we said it out loud, right? Why? Because now this 16 and 15 will be exchanged among us. Fine? So now, Divya, you
Yes.
have 15 and I have 16. Now, Fahim and Rajesh being the hacker in the group, they have now successfully grabbed our keys, right? Which is 16 and
16.
15,
16.
right? Now I again want you to add your private key to 15 and so will I. Fine.
Okay.
Now, whatever data we will send to each other, right, all the data that we will transmit it using this as a key, right? We will
Okay.
transmit it using this as a key, which should be same for both of us. So is it 21 for you as well,
Yes, yes.
right? So we will
Yeah.
transmit the data using 21, and if Fahim and Rajesh, they can sniff our data and they try to decrypt it, they will have 15 and 16 as an option. Will they be able to decrypt it?
No.
No, right?
No.
Because we are
No.
sending it using 21 as the key,
Yes.
Okay.
right? So this is what Diffie-Hellman said. So we call it asymmetric. Can you see a combination of public and private is going on over here,
Yeah.
right? That's why we call it as asymmetric encryption, and that's why it's asymmetric key exchange, which makes all the communication easier for us to do, right? Now, since we just have one common key, we can always use this key for data transfer, and every communication beyond this point will be a symmetric encryption, don't you think?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? So it will be a lot faster. Fine. Any question with this?
Okay.
Clear?
So this 21 would be symmetric encryption, right?
Uh, yeah, see, this data see, it is neither symmetric. Can you see, in symmetric, we had public key for B and public key for A, right?
Right, right,
But here, rather, we are agreeing on one single public key, isn't it? And that
correct.
too, that key is not being sent over the network at any time, isn't it?
Right, right,
So it's even faster because we don't even have to do that public key decryption. You just have one key, you use that key. You don't have to switch between public key for B and public key for A, right? You can do all the communication using one single key.
Yeah.
Fine?
Okay.
Great. Any question with this?
No, ma'am.
no.
So that's about encryption. Fine. And the keyword for encryption is a key, right? Similarly, keyword for encoding will be mapping. Fine.
Hmm.
When I say mapping, that means I will map it to certain things. So have you guys heard of ASCII values?
Yeah.
Something like this?
That's really yes.
Great. Now, if I write something like this, is it making any sense?
No.
No, right? Now, if I ask you to refer to an ASCII table, fine? Can you make sense out of it now? 72 is for,
H. Okay.
69 is for,
H.
E.
76 is for,
L.
and 79 is for
O.
O, right? Now, if I come
Okay.
back here, can you say this is H, this is
H
E,
E
this is
L
L and L,
L
and this is
and O. Yeah.
O, right? So this time, did we use any key to encrypt it, or did we just use a table,
Just a
right?
table.
So we had certain predefined rules and we used those rules in order to create an encoded message, right? Isn't it?
Okay.
So this is what is known as encoding. Can you guys give me any of the well-known encoding algorithms? Have you heard of base 64? Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ending
Yeah.
with double equal
Hexa.
sign? Absolutely. We have hex. We have binary. Heard of it? We have UTF-8, right?
Yes.
So these are all different encoding algorithms. Fine. Any question with encoding now? Great. So let's move on to hashing then. What is hashing? Again, if I have to use one single word to define hashing, I would say it is something which is irreversible, right? When I say encryption, can I use the word decryption?
Yes.
When I say encoding, can I use the word decoding?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, when I say hashing, is there any word like dehashing?
No.
No.
No, right? Why? Because
Mm-hmm.
hashing is a one-way street, right? Hashing is a one-way street. Now, what happens in hash? They always create a message digest, right? They always create a message digest. Now, what we do with the help of a message digest, we go on with it. Let's say, let me give you a number, right? So let's say 100. Fine. Tell me what all numbers did I add in order to make 100? Can you do that?
Sorry. Yes.
Can you tell me what all numbers did I added to make 100?
Uh,
Or are there multiple scenarios for that?
Yeah.
yes.
Multiple scenarios.
Right? So you cannot actually tell me the exact thing, right? What did I
Yeah.
add in order to make 100? That's what happens with hashing. And the only thing with hash Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my system just got restarted because of some updates that I took this morning.
Okay.
So it just crashed, giving me a blue screen.
Oh. Okay.
And the good part is that I cannot share my screen.
So might be your system get hacked.
Perfect. Fine. So let me just reset the session, right?